Practice makes perfect. You have to be diligent about what you want. You have to apply yourself. You have to motivate yourself. You have to do it by yourself. And then you can do things for other people.
Alright y'all, so we back. Welcome to another BandClap TV rant video. On this August the 16th, I'm outside looking at the moon and looking at some of my favorite astrology YouTubers who talk about this moon in Aquarius, full moon in Aquarius, and what it means and all of that when it comes to all of the astrological signs. So I've been looking at that, and with this Stargate or Lionsgate or whatever you want to call it, I can't lie, I've been in a very, very deep hermit mode these past few days, and it's really kind of taken a lot for me to even come out right now and give y'all a video, because I'm still going through a lot of things and still trying to figure things out on a personal type of level. So that's why I haven't really been dropping a lot of podcasts lately. And usually when I make these rant videos, it don't really be like a main subject in mind. That's why I just call it a rant video, because I'm just ranting about the spiritual downloads that I may have gotten, or just something that I want to share with you. So like I always say, I greatly appreciate all of the support that I've been getting, especially when it comes to people sharing my channel, sharing my videos, commenting, liking, subscribing. All of that definitely means a lot to me, and I can never thank you guys enough, and you goddesses as well. Shout out to all the women too, because I've been doing a lot of looking at my YouTube analytics, and it's been showing me that even though it's by a small margin, I have a lot more women tuning into these podcasts than men, but it's only by a small percentage. So to all the goddesses out there that I've helped out, all of the queens, I definitely appreciate y'all. And to the guys too, all the kings, all of the alpha male brethren that came through because they seen me comment or super chat on a panel, or we may have been talking at my job or something like that, and you needed some spiritual advice about something, and then you checked out my channel and you got what you needed. So shout out to y'all too, man. Shout out to everybody who supported me up to this point and further on, and definitely shout out to everyone who checked out my video that I did about getting to know your inner child. And since I made that video, a lot of things have been happening that I've been wanting to touch on. A lot of political things been going on, a lot of stuff been going on as far as the black entertainment sector has been going on, but I'm not a gossip channel, so I don't really like talking about a lot of things unless I can benefit it in a spiritual level to give it to y'all, like when I brought up the whole thing about Aisha Curry and all of that. So I just been waiting and waiting with myself and just trying to see, okay, what should be the next video that I should touch on. But see, my inner child isn't done with me yet, meaning that this whole talk about getting to know your inner child, it isn't done. I didn't feel like I talked about that enough in that last video, even though it was like 51 minutes long. So this is going to be getting to know your inner child part 2, because I can't lie, y'all, when I tell y'all this stuff is so freaking important, it really is, and I can't really explain it like that. The only thing that I can really do is to just keep telling y'all about different things that I went through in my life, and hopefully if any of this stuff resonates with y'all, then maybe y'all will be able to take a lot of these things and apply it to y'all life and see how to work for y'all. So me finally, I guess, noticing my inner child, and I mean really noticing it and starting to acknowledge it. This new journey that I'm embarking on with this, I can't lie, it's been very, very interesting. It's like you getting to know your gut feeling. That's the best way to explain it. Everybody got that gut feeling, but they don't understand that it's actually an entity that is inside of your heart that gives you that gut feeling to warn you about stuff. And the more in tune with your higher self, and the more you're in tune with your inner self, the more intense and the more frequent those gut feelings tend to get. And I can't lie, me going through this in my own life, it's been a very, very interesting journey. So everybody that listens to my podcast, y'all know that aside from DJing and doing music and stuff like that, I do security work from time to time at my local arena in Orlando. And something very interesting happened to me at work. So it's this woman that I work with on my job, and I can't lie, she's real cool. Now, a lot of guys on my job, instead of approaching her and having a civilized conversation, they rather look at her body, because I can't lie, she is stacked, and I mean super stacked. But see, this is what happens when you're a type of guy that's on that stage 3. And going back to Christianity, because even in Christianity, they say that when you're quote unquote born again, you have a Holy Spirit. And when you got this Holy Spirit that's now inside of you, a lot of the things that you used to could do and you had no conscience at all, a lot of those things, since you got this new tenet, as you will, that's accompanying your spiritual body, you're no longer going to feel right doing those things anymore. Now, on the spiritual level, I understand this, but in a different way. The way I understand it is when you're at stage 3 and you fully transformed, meaning that in order for you to really be able to put your inner child, which was always there from the beginning, back at its rightful place, which is at the seat of your soul, you have to be balanced within yourself fully as a whole, meaning that a lot of the things that you used to do, and the result of those things were you being off balance. Now, when you're about to do those things, your inner child is gonna step in and give you a warning that, nah, if we trying to be on this path, this isn't one of those things that we need to keep doing. And for me, if I'm in that situation, either I'll get this real huge gut feeling, either that or on the inside, it feels like someone is squeezing my heart, almost like someone's trying to grab it and pull it out my body, like that finishing move on Mortal Kombat. And that's when I know that my inner child isn't happy about what I'm doing or what I'm about to do. And when your inner child is back on the seat of your soul, it gets to the point where you're no longer gonna be able to ignore that. And this is what keeps you on that straight and narrow path that's less traveled. So even though this lady had a very beautiful body, just looking at her, I can tell that she's been through a lot of trauma. I can tell that she's been through a lot of things, and just by us talking, I understand that. Just like how a lot of women may be insecure with their natural facial structure, so they might put some makeup on, aka a mask, to alter their true face. And it gets to the point where the more and more she does that, she starts to see that every time she puts that makeup on and takes that makeup off, her face starts to get more and more disfigured naturally, meaning that the first 5 or 6 times she puts the makeup on, she might start seeing minor acne bumps, she might break out in hives or something like that, and then she keeps putting that makeup on for a few more years, a few more months, and then you start to see discoloration in her natural face, because that mask, aka that makeup that she's been putting on her face, has been eating away at her natural essence every time she puts it on. And if this woman goes years upon years upon years upon years of doing this, it's gonna eventually get to the point where when she look at her face and then she look at her baby picture's face, she's gonna look so far gone and so far from the way she looked at her innocence. And I can't lie, I'm glad I'm a man, because growing up in the 90s in Memphis, Tennessee, going to Memphis City schools, you better love yourself, because if you don't love yourself and niggas start flaming you and they start checking you and you can't joan back, you can't flame back because you in your feelings, because you insecure about the way you look, that is a recipe for disaster. Now, when it comes to our inner child, unless something very traumatic happened to us where our inner child had to quote unquote grow up before it was supposed to, your inner child, aka the purest version of yourself, is never gonna change. And it's that pure essence within all of us that makes us so unique. And just like a baby, all your soul wants to do is to be able to have fun, enjoy itself, and be able to have a very memorable experience on this earth while you're living, doing whatever it is that you agreed to do before you even came on this earth. And when you get to know that inner child that's inside of you and you rekindle that relationship, that's when you really start to not only learn more about yourself, but you really start to learn things like what your purpose is, why you came here, and what are the things that you can offer in this world that can be not only beneficial to you, but can be beneficial to others too. And it's to the point now, like I said, where when I'm acting in my higher self, I can literally look at a woman and her inner child will talk back to me before she will. All I gotta do is just look in her eyes and just have a regular conversation, because me as a person, I already got that aura to where people just come to me and just tell me everything about themselves. And most of the times it be stuff that's TMI. I'm like, damn, I don't want to know about all that. But shit, I appreciate the fact that you felt like you could be open enough to come to me and tell me these things. And when I looked at her, I started to feel this small feeling of sadness, because since I try not to be in my emotions like that, and since my inner child doesn't run me, because to your inner child, you still have to be that father or mother figure to your inner child, because since your inner child don't know no better, it's gonna want to try to help and try to save everybody. But as a mature man or as a mature woman, you still have to have that discerning spirit to not do everything that your inner child would impulse for you to do. So we was talking and I forgot what we was talking about, but we ain't worked together in a while, so she was real happy to see me. And it was like this weird moment where we just looked in each other's eyes, and then she kind of looked away, and when she looked away, she got called to do something else. So that was my last time seeing her that day. And in that moment, I could feel her inner child speaking to my inner child, and that's where the feeling of sadness came from. And what her inner child said was, I already know that you're not really gonna want nothing to do with me now, but I really wish that you could have met me a few years ago before I got like this, because you would really love me if you could have seen who I really was before I got into all the stuff that made me who I am now. And that interaction, it really taught me a lot, because I've had women tell me that before just on a personal level, but to hear that on a spiritual level and to actually have my inner child for a split second show me the way she actually looked before she got into the trauma that she got into and before all of the negativity and all the stuff that went on, now I understand what the quote unquote beta males go through. Now, before I go forward with this, because me looking into the manosphere and seeing everybody's different definitions and all of that stuff, before I go any further with this, what my definition of a beta male is when a guy was at that spiritual and mental crossroad in his life, whether that was after a situation where a woman may have done him wrong or took advantage of him, or just a situation to where with women and just with life in general, you're just at that place in your life to where you're about to evolve, or you have a option to evolve if you go down the right road. And while you're at this crossroad, you have a Morpheus, aka Papa Legba figure, that offered you both options, and you blatantly refused the truth, and you decided that you would just rather stay asleep and be in an ignorance / blissful state and just be in an illusionary state. And this is the pill that you decide to take when it's time for you to go on your 3 stages of enlightenment. That's what I call the beta male, because a beta male was offered the truth, sometimes multiple times, but one way or another, he refused it, and he just wants to live in his illusion. So that's his choice. But when he goes through these things with women, and he goes through these things with life, and he starts to complain about why things are the way they are and all of this stuff, we look at that person as a beta male because you know better and you were shown better. It's just you that refused to see the world for what it really is. Now, in that same situation, if I was a beta male, number one, I would have been so blinded by her assets, and my energy towards her would have been so thirsty. Since I don't know myself, which is something that you learn about when you accept the truth, aka take the red pill, I would have tried to do everything in my power to get in them jeans that she could barely fit. And then, since I don't have that relationship with my higher self, which is able to be that bird's eye view over every situation that I go through to let me know what is the best decision or the best road that I should take, as a beta male, I view that higher self as something that's outside of me. So now, the only thing that I really have to make my decisions is my inner child and my lower self, because even though my higher self that's a part of me is still there, it's running idle, because since I'm blue pill, I don't notice that about myself yet. So you know what they say about the idle mind. So now you got your inner child trying to dictate everything, and even though in your heart you're always going to be innocent, the energy that you're going to give out is going to be a very low vibrational type of energy. So it playing out in that situation would have been like, not only what I've been trying to get in her pants, with my innocence playing as the rose-colored glasses, because I'm seeing everything in the eyes of a child. When I look at her, I don't see her for who she really is, which is this traumatized, heavily pained, and heavily chaotic woman who, if she had therapy, she could be a beautiful wife to somebody. I don't see all that. All I see is that innocent version of her that don't have the trauma, that innocent version of her that don't have the pain and the hurt and all of that stuff. So now I'm about to get with this chick for all the wrong reasons. Not to give her no type of spiritual therapy, not to give her no type of emotional or mental therapy. As a beta male, I just feel that with some good sex and me just being a good man in general to her and just being that shoulder for her to cry on, that's all she's gonna need to transform her into that wifeable woman that my illusion is telling me that she already is. And since your lower self represents a shoot, and you being a beta male that wears your innocence on your sleeve to the point where too many people can take advantage of you, you don't got no type of armor on to protect yourself from spiritual, physical, mental, and emotional attacks. You give your whole heart and mind and soul and body to this woman. And the thing about it is, she may be very, very appreciative of it, because that love is what she needs. But see, it's like one of those situations to where you got a huge hole in your tire, and the more you fill that tire up with air, and even though that tire may be looking good for a little while, eventually all that air is going to seep out of that tire, and you pretty much not going to have anything left. That tire is going to be as useless as it was before you put the air in it, because at the end of the day, in order for her to be able to not only accept the love that you give her, but to be able to filter that love back out and give it to you in a balanced type of way, she got to first be able to love herself in that way. Because see, one thing I understand now is that when it comes to us guys and what we look for in our ideal mate, now with this, I'm not just talking about a certain type of guy, I'm just pretty much talking about most guys in general. As a guy, when we look for love, we look for that unconditional love, and no one is going to give you the most unconditional love than your grandmother. That's why when we talk about the Orishas and the most prominent celestial great mother goddess, Nana Baruku, she's looked at as the Orisha grandmother, whose moonlight shines over the sea and is responsible for the tides that go back and forth, the sea in which Yemoya lives in, which is our great mother. And then also, as a guy, we want our ideal woman to understand us like brother and sister. But see, in the bedroom, we like it when she calls us daddy. Now, when I said that we want our ideal woman to love us like a grandmother, the reason why I say that is, in a lot of cases, grandmother love her grandson better than she love her own kids. And it's not that in that grandmother's eyes that grandson can do no wrong. It's that literally every time that grandson goes to that grandmother's house, I can't lie, because I know with me coming up, going to my grandmother's house and stuff like that, that used to always be the best time, because the atmosphere was just so peaceful and beautiful and all of that. Now, you know, I came up in a southern family, so every time I would go to church, the next thing that we would do after church is to all go over my grandmother's house. So my grandmother's house was pretty much that meeting place where I was able to see all my cousins, all my uncles and aunties, and pretty much everybody on my dad's side of the family, simply because my grandmother's house was just that meeting place. And my grandma was able to cook this real big Sunday dinner. Everybody got full, all the kids ate, even to the point where if some of the uncles and aunties wanted to take some food home, it was such an abundance of food that they was able to take food home and stuff like that, and there would still be a lot of food left over if people wanted seconds or even thirds. And I remember a lot of times I would be going through things, no matter what it was. I might have went through something at school, or I might have went through something at home or anything, and I was always able to talk to my grandmother about anything. anything. And my grandmother never judged me. She never looked at me in a negative type of way, or even the times when I was bad at school and my dad would be arguing and fussing at me and to punish me when we would go to my grandmother's house and I was bad at school or something like that, while all the other kids was in the living room watching TV and playing and all of that stuff. My dad would have me in the other room where all the grown-ups was at, and I would just have to sit in the corner by myself. And a lot of times my grandmama would just come to me and see me all sad and stuff, give me some motivating words that'll touch me in the way that if my mom would have said those same words, or if my dad would have said those same words, it wouldn't have hit me or impacted me in the way that it did when my grandmother said it, because it was just something about my grandma that in her presence, whatever positivity that she would shed on you, it'll just feel like a healing type of energy, no matter if I was good or if I was bad. And the thing about it is, a lot of my cousins who were just known to be troublemakers and who were just known to be rambunctious and stuff like that, when they would get over my grandmother's house, they would be angels. And my grandmother and the energy that she had in that house really brought that out of them. And just in a nutshell, when we're talking about love, that's the type of love that us men look for in our ideal woman. When that man had a long day at work, he grinding, he on his purpose, trying to do the right thing, trying to be a righteous man. When he comes home to his wife, he's gonna want to feel like he's going back to his grandmother's house, back to when you was a kid at church, listening to that boring church service. And all you thinking in the back of your mind is, man, I can't wait to get back to grandmother's house. Because not only do I know that she got some good food waiting on me, I can't wait to go and see my cousins and all of that. And to a guy, there's nothing more peaceful, more loving, more fulfilling than for him to come home to his wife. She got a nice hot dinner on the table and she know it's your favorite, and you got your little angels running around and you hugging and kissing them goodnight because it's late and they know they're supposed to be in the bed, but they heard the door open in the living room, so they know that daddy's home, so they just wanted to jump out the bed right quick and show you the A's and B's that they got on their report card because their mom was able to help them with their work. So now they in the bed, you eating your nice dinner with your queen, and she look at you with those innocent, feminine, and loving eyes, and she asks you, so how was your day at work today? And I mean, for every guy, whether they're alpha male, whether they're beta male, all these different peels and types of men, unless you're like a incel who don't want to have kids and all that type of stuff, you would wish to be able to have a woman to treat you like that. And you may ask yourself, for a woman to be able to love like a grandmother, but understand like a brother and sister, but still be able to put it down in the bedroom and call you daddy, how would one possibly be able to come across a woman like that? Now, for anybody that's asking that question, I want to give you an answer as well as a solution, because you know me, I'm all about solutions. On my channel, I don't complain about women or the lack thereof. I like to point out why is it that you may not be attracting the woman that you want in your life, or women, and a solution to what you would need to do spiritually first to be able to attract what you want, because we all know that it all starts spiritually first. Now, to answer this question, I gotta start with this statement. Every woman starts off as a single mother. Yeah, every woman starts out as a single mother. Now, I bet y'all heard that and y'all like, where's this nigga finna go with this? Well, let me explain, because actually it's the same way for a man too. Now, when a woman gets to that point to where she started to be aware of herself, and with every girl that will start off in different ages. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm gonna say that the age that a woman is starting to be aware of herself is when she's 18, even though we all know that with some women that can be a lot younger, but I'm gonna just say 18. So now this woman has been in this nest as a girl for all of this time, and now since her body has now been matured and since her mind has been matured, now it is time for her to go on her soul journey, and this is what's going to upgrade her spiritually and emotionally. So during this time, she starts on her stages of enlightenment a lot earlier, because let's just say she had a very balanced upbringing. So she's 18 and she starts going on her stages of enlightenment, and while she's going on these stages of enlightenment, this is when she starts to get aligned with her inner child, meaning that she starts to re-notice its existence, and this is when she becomes a single mother. So now, as a single mother, this is the period in a woman's life to where it's the most pivotal and the most difficult, because I can't lie, raising a child as a single mother can really be difficult, because that child is a part of you, and as a mother, you really don't want to let that child out of your sight, especially if it's a little baby. That little baby is damn near glued to their mom. But now picture this in an inner type of sense, and when you think about it, this is a lot more important than you having a physical child, because even though that physical child is a part of you, your inner child is you. It's that part of you that transcends time and space. So even though you may be 18, 19 years in an earthly term, your soul is still in that infant type of state. And when your inner child is at the seat of your soul, where that infinite source of energy is, and especially in this real crazy fucked up world that we live in, that's created by beings that don't have inner children inside of them, beings that don't have souls, this is an equivalent of raising a child in the ghetto. And see, the thing about it is, even though I'm saying single mother, this applies to guys too. Now, once this woman finds out about her inner child, so now she's a single mother, since she knows the importance of that inner child, because she notices its presence, she knows how valuable it is, and she wants to protect it the best way that she can. And one of the steps to do that is you really have to be careful now of who you hang around, because since you got this inner child that's inside of you, that's literally going to be everywhere you go, you have to be careful of what your inner child get exposed to. Just like if you had a real child, would you take your real child to the club with you? I'll wait. Would you take your real child to the bar with you? Would you take your real child to the strip club with you? So naturally, as a single mother who wants to raise up their inner child in the right way, there's a lot of things that this society is going to try to throw at you, and your inner child is just not going to want to go that way. And since you and that inner child have such a powerful bond now, when you got certain friends that you thought you was cool with, and now you're a woman and you realized about your inner child and you're cultivating that relationship, so you and your inner child have a real good camaraderie. Just like a real baby, that inner child is going to let you know if you got fake friends. Your inner child is going to let you know if you got snake friends as well as hate friends, aka those friends who smile in your face but they plotting on your downfall and they got those ulterior motives. Your inner child is going to give you a huge either gut feeling, or you're just not going to feel like something is no longer right when you're around them. And it's up to you to listen or not, because like the Bible say, out of the mouth of babes come wisdom. And you know that's one of my favorite Bible verses. So now you and your inner child got this real good relationship. You was able to steer clear away from all that ratchetness and all that drama and all of that negativity. So now you at stage 2. And even though you're not a mom physically, since you've been cultivating and taking care of this inner child so much, when it comes to spiritually and emotionally, in your mind, you already feel like a mom. And you start to see that in your life, since you exude that type of energy, people start to deal with you in a different way. A lot of those savage type of guys will slowly get more and more intimidated by trying to approach you with the lowest level of communication, because your aura says, mama, don't play that. Because you know that as a woman, a man can easily get to your soul, aka play with your inner child through sex. And as a mom, especially as a single mother, you're not gonna allow your kids to play with no just anybody, because I can't lie, it's a lot of baby kids out here, and you don't want those baby kids to influence your inner child to think that that's what it needs to do to be cool and to be popular and all of that. Now, I know you're asking yourself, what is a baby kid? So this is my definition of a baby kid. The baby kid is actually a program of mind control that this system of soulless beings have created specifically for the inner city youth. Unfortunately, a lot of black women are targeted with this program of mind control as little kids, because that's where manipulation and mind control starts as a kid. That's why it's so important as a mother and as a father to make sure that you monitor what your kids watch, listen to, what they read, what they touching on, all of that. And that's inner and outer child. So an example of a baby kid is that child who grew up from a very imbalanced upbringing, and that music and media manipulation was able to shape their minds instead of something that's seated in righteousness shaping their mind. And this baby kid program is meant to keep you physically and mentally in a childlike state, because if you're physically and mentally in a childlike state, you'll never grow up and discover that you have an inner child that's inside of you. So this woman grows up with this baby kid program installed inside of her through childhood. So now when she grows up, which in a lot of cases is way too fast, even though physically she looks grown up, mentally she's still in that childlike state, because that's what the program is made for you to be. So since she doesn't know herself, and since she haven't cultivated that relationship with her inner child, she don't even understand and can feel what true love is. She goes looking for that love outside of herself. So that's where she gets in that same position that the beta male was in, to where she meets a lot of guys who are just like her. They ain't nothing but some male baby kids, and their inner child is asleep just like her inner child is asleep. So since that guy is mentally acting like a child, he's called the bad boy, aka the savage nigga. And since that woman is looking at herself in the lens of that baby kid program, she don't know anything about her inner child, because mentally she's still a little girl. She's called the bad bitch, aka, well, there's really no aka, because that's what they call themselves. So she's looking for love, but she don't know what she's looking for. So in that case, she'll receive anything, because since she don't really know what that true love feels like, if that guy is telling her that he love her, but he's a baby kid too, and he don't know nothing about love because he went through the same stuff when he was coming up, he's not even gonna be able to give her any love. But the stuff that he can give her, which is rough sex, a lot of drama and pain and emotional agony mixed with some money and some clout, that's what the baby kid looks at as being love. Now the thing about it is, even though she doesn't notice what her inner child is or who her inner child is, it's still there. And that's your inner child that's trying to alert you and it's trying to tell you that no, this void that you're trying to feel is not gonna be any of this stuff that you're trying to put in that space. It's like you're trying to fit a square in a circle peg. It's just not gonna work. So the more that baby kid goes through life ignoring her inner child, those warning gut feelings and those warning pains that she feels in her heart, which is really her inner child crying out, trying to get her attention. But instead, since the baby kid is so hypnotized by this music media manipulation, she thinks that maybe if I drink a little bit, maybe if I take this pill before I go to the club, maybe if I smoke this blunt before I go to the club to try to get rid of that gut feeling, maybe it'll just go away. And it's just sad to say, if they're able to live through it, meaning that if they don't end up dead or something like that, locked up, a lot of these baby kids don't end up coming to the light and finally listening to their inner child. In a woman's situation, is when she looks in the mirror and she can no longer see that innocence that she once used to have. And when I say look in the mirror, I'm not even just saying physically, I'm meaning spiritually. And this is when she starts to go on her stages of enlightenment and finding out who her inner child is and all of that in her later stages in her physical life, where going back to that example about the other single mother who's been cultivating a very, very strong and powerful relationship with her inner child since she was 8 18 by the time she gets out of stage 2, and she's still in her mid-20s. She has no kids, and with her knocking on the door of stage 3, since she already loves herself, aka since she's already loved her inner child like a mother, when she goes to stage 3, and now she's looking for that enlightened man, because since she was able to dodge all of those stumbling blocks, and she was able to dodge a lot of those things simply because her inner child kept her on that path. Now she's 25, now she's 26, and she's been loving herself and taking care of herself so much to the point where when you look at her, she still looks 18. And as an enlightened man, when you talk to that woman who's at stage 3, when y'all have that initial conversation, even at the highest level of communication, your soul and her soul is connecting to the point to where you start to feel like you've been knowing this girl your whole life. And when y'all talk on the phone, and when y'all talk, and when y'all are around each other, people start to assume that y'all are already a couple and that y'all are already married. Because see, the way a relationship works with a stage 3 man and a stage 3 woman, just like with a physical baby, that mother nurtures that child from the point it was in her stomach all the way until that child doesn't need to be under his mom like that. And then this is where daddy comes in, and daddy comes in and raises that child up with his life, aka with his intelligence, with his game, with his wisdom, with his knowledge, and he raised that child up to be the upstanding man or the upstanding woman that they're going to be. Now, this happens on a relationship level when we're talking about two enlightened beings. When a woman is enlightened, she gives her inner child to that man, and you know, in a lot of instances, grandmothers got a very, very high sense of discernment, most of the times over your own mother. So with all of that being in mind, that enlightened woman, she knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that if she gives her inner child to him, he will be able to, in exchange, give her the light that she needs to transform herself into whatever it is that she needs to be in order to be the perfect helpmate to that enlightened man. And this goes back to when I was talking about when a man imprints a woman, all he's doing is transforming that woman so that she can be the perfect helpmate to that archetype of a guy. And that's the reason why when she's not with that archetype of a guy, she doesn't feel complete, because that imprint was too strong and it's still standing. And until that imprint is broken and she has to transform again, she'll never be fully satisfied in that relationship. So when you look at it, it's damn near a fair exchange. When you think about it, you're taking care of that woman's inner child, and if she kept that inner child innocent, that's going to be a very positive experience. Because with a guy, if you was able to do the same thing with your inner child, when your inner child and her inner child meet up, they're like the best of siblings. That's the best way to explain it. And the best way to imprint a woman is through her mind. So that man is being like a grandfather mentally and intellectually, giving her that game, giving her that wisdom and knowledge that she needs to transform her into that helpmate. So she definitely is going to be very thankful and very grateful and very loyal because of that. So as a result to that man, since she already loves her inner child like a mother, she's going to love that man who's now that caretaker of her inner child. She's going to love that man like a grandmother, which is that unconditional, cosmically balanced type of love. And last but not least, since that enlightened man knows about tantra and has been doing it for a while, since that enlightened man knows about semen retention because he's been doing it for a while, since that man knows about different sexual techniques that has been tried and tested and it works because he's been doing it for a while, and he can teach her these things too. And this is how in the bedroom she's calling you daddy. So now I explained to you how it is that a woman can love like a grandmother, understand you like a brother and sister, but also be able to call you daddy in the bedroom. Now I bet you're wondering, as a guy, how can I find my stage 3 woman that does those things for me, that can be my helpmate? Now the thing about it is, if you was that type of guy who at that crossroad decided that you want to search for the truth and you want to seek the truth and you want to see this world for what it really is and learn how to conquer it in that aspect, this can be a lot easier than you think. And the easiest way for you to be able to figure this out is that first you got to figure out who you are. And I mean really figure out who you are. And for everybody, that journey is going to be different. I can't even give you no 12-step program. I can't even give you no book or anything to really explain that to you. So like I always do, I'm gonna take the rest of this time to just tell y'all a little bit of how I was able to find this in my own life and with myself. So ever since I was in elementary school coming up, I was never the type of guy that was attracted to ratchet hood type of girls, mainly because I was a quiet kid in school. And even as a little kid, I really valued my privacy. And a lot of the ratchet girls in my class and a lot of the ratchet girls that was in my school, they were super loud and super loquacious and had a lot of drama going on. And since I was kind of sheltered in a way, I never really understood the stuff that they was talking about. It just sounded like a lot of babble because I didn't come up in that area or whatever. So I just didn't fit in with those type of girls. But the crazy part about it is, it was just something about, I guess, their bodies or something like that when I got in high school that just made me want to get with them sexually. But I just never really knew how to do it, because even coming up in school, I was a very intellectual type of guy. So naturally, I like being around other intellectually stimulating type of people. And I would try to talk with a hood chick or a ratchet chick, and the conversation would just be so stale. And even coming up, I was always about the flow. I was never one to just be like, hey, what's up, girl? You want to go have sex? I was never one of those type of dudes. I was always one to just have a nice conversation. And if things ever got to that point, then hey, it got to that point, which with the ratchet and hood girls, it never did, because those type of women weren't on that type of intellectual level like that. So we wasn't incompatible. But the thing about it is, because coming up, I never really liked the nerdy girl like that either, because she wasn't sexy like that ratchet hood chick that got the big old ghetto booty. The girls that would always pique my interest would be that girl who was smart and made all A's and B's, but she was still on the cheerleading squad. So she was kind of like that down-to-earth chick who took care of her business at school, but was still able to have fun too. So she couldn't really be categorized as a nerd, but she wasn't ratchet either. Now, the older I got and the more places that I ended up going and stuff like that, and the friends that I would have, I would still try my best to be like my friends and get with the ratchet hood girls, and they'll never work out, man. The last time I was quote-unquote sipping for a girl was in middle school. At the middle school that I went to, there was a gas station that was right up the street, literally walking distance to the school. So my dad used to drop me off a little bit earlier in the morning before school would start, just to make sure that I got there in time for breakfast, and he would give me like $3 or $4 so I can pay for lunch. So I would wait till my dad pull off, and then I would walk over there to the gas station, and I'll get me a huge pack of gum and some hot Cheetos, cause shit, in middle school that was my favorite thing to eat. So it was this chick named Jamira that I was in middle school with, and even though Jamira was hella ratchet, I don't know what the hell her parents was feeding her, but she had one of the most well-developed bodies in the 7th grade. Man, I can't even lie, I was kind of mesmerized because I never seen with my rated G eyes a chick that was stacked like that. So I remember when I was talking to the little girls in the 6th grade, they're trying to be intellectual with the baby kids, just not gonna work. But see, it was something different about Jamira. She actually would give me a little bit of attention. Now, me looking back at that situation now, I know the main reason why she was giving me all that attention, because in my book bag, she would always see me with a big ass bag of Cheetos and a pack of gum, and it never failed. Every day she would ask me either for a piece of gum or for a handful of chips, and me being the innocent and giving kid that I was, I would give it to her. Now, during this time, I'm over here trying to spit my little game, and I had 0 game in middle school, and I'm thinking I'm getting somewhere. Now, I haven't got a chance to grab on her booty yet, but I'm thinking like, well, if I keep going this rate, keeping a smile on her face, giving her a piece of gum and giving her some chips, that maybe, just maybe, we can make some type of relationship out of this or something. I don't know. So one day, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna really go for it. And I planned it out, what I was gonna do and everything. So we standing in the line, and you know how it used to be in school where you got other classes that's passing through, and we was on the way to lunch. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit by her at lunch and I'm gonna shoot my shot once and for all. So we walking into the cafeteria, and the minute we get to the cafeteria, all of a sudden this other class come in, and this dude named Darius, because see, I took a couple classes with Darius, so I already knew who he was and all of that. He come up behind Jamira, grab on that booty and be like, what up, baby? And she pretty much laughing and giggling, going along with it, and I'm over here like, really? That's all it took? I could have just grabbed on her booty and said, what up, baby? And she would have been down. Then I thought about all those times that I gave her gum and all the times that I gave her the last of my chips, and this dude literally just grabbed on her booty and yanked her up. That was my last quote-unquote blue pill moment. And needless to say, they walked out the cafeteria, headed to the gym, and that's the end of that story. Now, even though I never did anything like that anymore to a woman, that still didn't stop my pursuit of bagging some ratchet hood ghetto booty having chicks. And until I really analyzed myself and really started to come to terms with who I really am, that's when things really started to change for me. And then it got to the point where the wiser I got and the more knowledgeable I got, the less and less I would even see those type of women around me at all. And even now, I remember all of those type of women that when I had my own business, I would be helping those type of women get jobs and putting those type of women to work to not only make me money, but to keep them out the street, because that's the reason why they would come to me, because they felt like I could get them some type of game, or they felt like I could put them to work to get them away from the life that they was living. So needless to say, the older I got, I was always able to get different things out of women, and I ain't even had to use my lowest form of communication to get it. These women would just freely do it. And it got to the point where the older I got, I would always end up attracting a woman that's a lot older than me. And with me doing this shadow work that I've been doing and learning about who I really am, it really helped me to be able to find the tribe of women that works for me. And with learning this and going through a lot of these things as an enlightened man, is one thing that I definitely learned, and that is, just because you may give a woman some game to transform herself, you still have to remember that female nature is female nature is female nature. Meaning that just because you were the one that transformed her, don't always mean that she's gonna want to share that transformation with you, because at the end of the day, she didn't come to you because she wanted to be your helpmate. She came to you for therapy. And to better explain this for a minute, I want to talk about another form of Elegua that I learned about during this Lionsgate opening that happened on 8/8/19, I think. And it's the connection between Elegua and the god Thoth in ancient Kemet. And I also want to talk about the goddess Sekhmet. Now, I mentioned Sekhmet a few times in a few of my podcasts, but I haven't really done a dedicated synopsis about her. And in the future, I may end up still doing that, because Sekhmet is one of the many faces of Akasha, and I may do a whole series about that too. But when it comes to this side of Akasha, Sekhmet is known as that female version of the right eye of Ra, and she's very, very protective over Ra, and she'll come down with a vengeance to destroy anybody who's against Ra. And when Sekhmet goes into her bout of destruction, she's similar to the goddess Kali, and I did a whole podcast talking about Kali. So what really made me look up who Thoth was, it reminded me again of a Miss Blue Planet remix show that I called into back in 2015 when I started to go on my journey of enlightenment. And I asked Miss Blue who is the god or goddess in ancient Kemet that I should look up, and she gave me a small reading over the phone, and she told me for for me, I should start looking up Tahuti. And as you know, another word for Tahuti is Thoth, Thoth. And the thing about it is, back in 2015, I didn't really know why she would tell me to look him up until now. And then in this Lionsgate opening, I finally got the download that I've really been searching for. And that is that Tahuti and Elegua are one and the same, just like Elegua and Papa Legba are one and the same, meaning that they're literally the same entity, just a different name. And when I seen that, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. So I started looking into the mythologies of the Kemetic god Tahuti. Now, just a little small synopsis of Tahuti, because I don't even have any notes in front of me, so I'm just going strictly off of memory. But in ancient Kemet, Tahuti was the god of knowledge, writing, time, and he was the keeper of many secrets involving the underworld and stuff like that. And it's also a good note that Tahuti is a moon god, which means that he understands a woman in the highest extent. And I mean, if you got a grandmother like Nana Baruku, who also lives in the moon, I bet you would have a lot of knowledge and a lot of understanding about women. So there's this legend, because when we talk about ancient parables in the Bible, they're called parables. In Yoruba, they're called patakis, and in ancient Kemet, they're called legends. So in this legend of Thoth, there was this situation to where there was a lot of people on Earth who was disrespecting Ra. So Sekhmet comes down to destroy all the enemies of Ra, and she just goes into this bloodthirsty rage, similar to the story about Kali. So this is when Thoth gets sent down, aka Tahuti. Now Tahuti knows that he's not going to be able to take Sekhmet head on, because we see what happened with Shiva when he tried to stop Kali. She stepped all over Shiva and almost killed him. So Thoth, he was like, nah, you know what, I got a better idea. So Thoth went and got some red wine, and the red wine looked just like blood. So he went and poured this red wine all around, and Sekhmet, she went and licked up the red wine because she thought it was blood, and Sekhmet ended up falling asleep. So now, since Sekhmet is knocked out, Thoth picked her up and brought her to this huge lake that was filled with this holy water. And whatever this type of holy water was, it was extremely powerful. And while Sekhmet was asleep, Tahuti threw her into the water. And not only did that holy water cleanse her of her bloodthirsty rage, it also transformed her into the goddess Bastet. Now, I touched on Bastet a little bit when I was talking about that podcast about Left Eye, and how Bastet, she represents the gentle black cat, that goddess who's sensual and gentle, but she's also extremely protective. And if you want that real potent spiritual protection, get you a Bastet statue or program you a black cat. But that's a whole different type of conversation. And it was at this transformation that Bastet seen that even though she was able to defeat a lot of enemies using brute force and violence, as this new being, which is Bastet, now she sees that compassion is actually the greatest weapon of all, even greater than the violence that she was doing. Now the thing about it was, had Tahuti never tricked Sekhmet into drinking that wine and falling into that lake of holy water, she never would have known that about herself, because she was in a blind rage. But it took someone who's a little bit more knowledgeable about the essence of Sekhmet, someone who already seen that Bastet inside of Sekhmet already. All he had to do was to just bring it out. And sometimes you have to be that trickster and trick them into righteousness, the same way when you have a little child and you trying to get them to take their medicine, or you trying to get them to eat their vegetables or something like that, and you gotta do the little airplane with the spoon, or you gotta sneak and put the medicine in their favorite juice. But the thing about it is, when that child start feeling better, they gonna thank you, or they may not even realize that they was taking medicine the whole time. But the more and more I kept looking at the mythologies, because I'm like, man, out of all this stuff that Thoth did to turn Sekhmet into Bastet and all of that, surely he ended up marrying her and making her his queen. But nah, that was further from the truth. Actually, Sekhmet went on to marry Ptah, and as we know, Ptah is a god of healing, which is something that Sekhmet really needs. So then I started to wonder, and then I started to put the pieces together, how every time that I would come across a Sekhmet in my life, that's literally what I would be doing. Now, a lot of those women, once they left me and they had nobody else to teach them anything or anything like that, a lot of them ended up regressing and backsliding. And then I got a small channel from Oshun, and even in the stuff that I was looking at about Oshun, it talks about how as the baby Elegua, he would play tricks on Oshun just to keep her on her toes, let her know that even though she's this wealthy queen, don't get too conceited with your riches, that you start to forget about your innocence. And then I started to see how not only does Elegua have a good relationship with Oshun, but also Tahuti, because anytime Oshun want to get some higher knowledge so she can transform, she'll go to Tahuti. So now I'm like, okay, now it makes perfect sense. Wow, even though I'm embarking on this new journey of doing my videos and stuff like that, I have a lot of daughters of Oshun that hit me up on Instagram, come in my DMs and all of that stuff. And since it's Oshun, I would think like, maybe I can get with these girls. And then something happened to where when it all falls down, I see that she got a lot of unresolved trauma and all of that, and I end up having to be that Tahuti to put her on game. And the satisfaction of knowing that now she has something that's gonna be with her and stay with her forever, pretty much. And then the little money that I get from the consultation, that makes me feel way better than if I did the lowest level of communication with her. So that explains why every time I run across those type of women, I get those type of results. So then I got a little bit deeper. So I'm like, okay, so who is Tahuti's wife? And when I saw the result that came up, it made so much sense. The wife of Tahuti is Mayat, and Mayat is the queen of cosmic balance, and you can't get more balance than cosmic balance. And then he also has a consort named Seshat. And who is Seshat? She is actually the great scribe of ancient Kemet. And when you look at Seshat's mythology, she's the perfect consort for Tahuti. And And then when you look at Mayat, she's the perfect wife for Tahuti. And when I found out who Thoth was, and he represented the ibis, which is a bird, a huge bird, and then I looked at Mayat and she has the bird feather on her head. And when it's time for a man or a woman to be judged, she would take that feather off of her head and put it on her sacred scale, and then she would take your heart, aka your inner child, and that inner child is light as a feather. Remember that Bible verse where Jesus said that my burden is light. Remember the Fool Tarot card where the Fool packs light, and I can go on and on and on just talking about that. And even when you look at the relationship between Mayat, Thoth, and Seshat, there's still a divine camaraderie there, because see, Mayat, with her representing cosmic balance, she has all of that Akashic information inside of her that makes her righteous. And Thoth, being the god of time and measurement, he gave her one of his feathers so that she would be able to, at the right time, be able to measure the souls of men. And then with her essence and with her Akashic knowledge, she's able to give that to Thoth. And then Thoth comes down to earth and teaches this information to Seshat. And then Seshat, she turns that Akashic information to what we know now as hieroglyphs. So me learning that, it really opened up a lot of room for speculation in my life, because I had to look over my life and I had to really assess the women that actually did give me a chance, the women that actually I regretted that I never got with simply because I thought they was too nerdy or anything like that. Now with one of these situations, I already talked about her in that podcast that I did called All Things Are Possible, so y'all can go back to that podcast to hear that story. Now the one thing that I noticed when I go into the mythology of Seshat, even though she's very smart, she's also extremely beautiful, kind of like a version of Oshun that knows and practices all of the Obanani secrets. And to be honest with you, in studying and really going within myself, that's when I truly started to figure it out about the type of women that I need to be trying to attract into my life. And just like how you're rarely gonna find Obanani at the club, you're not really gonna find Seshat at the club like that, because being honest with you, Seshat is more of a sapiosexual, meaning that she holds a man's intellect and intelligence higher than anything else. And you know what? The older I get, I'm learning to be a lot more accepting of that, because one thing that, well, two things that I don't want is a woman to look at me as an easy come up or as a bag, nor do I want a woman to just look at me as a piece of meat. And I've always been like that. So what's left? My intellect, my wisdom, my intelligence, my game, and all of those things are stuff that sapiosexual women find attractive. And like I say, the beautiful thing that I love about this world is that there's a beautiful woman in every single category. If you're the type of guy who likes anime and stuff like that, there's a lot of women that like anime too, and y'all can end up hitting it off. If you're the type of guy who likes sports and stuff like that, if you stay true to yourself, you're going to end up finding a woman that loves sports, and y'all end up hitting it off. And just like me, the more I do these videos and the more I connect, I'm starting to find other women that's into spirituality and into the orishas and stuff like that. So to that guy that's out there wondering, or that woman who's out there wondering, will they ever find their ideal mate? And that answer doesn't necessarily have to happen on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. All you got to do is go within, do that shadow work, get to know your inner child, and your inner child is going to let you know who they want to play with. Just make sure they ain't playing with no baby kids, because if you have a whole bunch of baby kids playing with you, you're going to end up having a bunch of babies. I don't even know if that's a word, y'all, but all right, y'all, so that's my video, and I'm still not really done talking about this. I had a whole bunch of other stuff that I want to touch on, as well as give y'all some examples of some women that I encountered that my inner child and their inner child was actually compatible. But just because there's a connection on one end doesn't mean that the connection on the other end may be compatible as well. So yeah, there may be a part 3, or they may not. That's up for y'all to decide. Y'all let me know if y'all want me to keep talking about getting to know your inner child. And shout out to everyone who stayed all the way to the end and listened to this rant video. Y'all mean, as y'all always know, follow me on Instagram, BandClap TV, Facebook, BandClap TV for all updates. Definitely check my community tab on my YouTube channel, because I give little teasers of when I'm about to drop something or something like that. Or I may just ask for y'all opinion on a certain subject or matter or something like that. So definitely be on the lookout, and anybody who has products or services that they want to promote on my channel, shoot me an email. As y'all know, the donation links are in my description if y'all would love to. And yeah, BandClap TV, we out.